Hey, welcome back everybody. I have missed making these videos. It's been too long. We're gonna go over the remaster today specifically for the Witch, because it's me. So let's talk about witches, the new and improved. You can't be both new and improved. Anyway, witches. I'm gonna talk about the Witch Familiar and Patron first. However, if you want to know more details about the Patron Familiar powers that have already been released, I have a different video for that. It's going to be in the description, link below. So, the Witch Familiar and Patron, overall, the only familiar changes I see, apart from like changing the language to be more clear, is the Patron Familiar abilities. Other than that, the Familiar itself works just the same. Same number of hit points, same number of additional abilities for the Witch. And the patrons of Winter, Pacts, Mosquito Witch, and Baba Yaga are gone, or they're going to be reprinted in another book later. I imagine that's probably the case because those are rare. I really want my Mosquito Witch, so they better freaking bring that back. Night Patron has been a little bit improved by replacing Sleep with Fear, because Sleep is often useless and Fear is often useful. Sleep is a cool idea, it just doesn't, it's not always useful. And it doesn't come up that often either. When you first make your Witch and you're choosing your Familiar and your Patron, you can choose either the beginning focus spell of Patron's Puppet or Phase Familiar. Phase Familiar works just like it did before, it's a reaction, you try to save your Familiar from taking damage. Patron's Puppet is a free action, takes one focus point. The trigger is your turn begins. At your unspoken plea, your patron temporarily assumes control over your Familiar. You command your Familiar. That's it. So you get an extra, basically, action to move your Familiar somewhere, but it's at the beginning of your turn, so it's not protective for the Familiar. It's strategic. So your Familiar is still in just as much danger as it always has been. And I don't know about you, but I didn't even realize that this has always been a rule. That if the Witch's Familiar dies, you can't use hexes anymore. They're channeled through your Familiar from your patron. I just didn't realize that. But I saw that in this one, it does specify the same thing is still true. And I hate that. I think it sucks. And I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. Because I don't see the point of like losing a class feature when something that commonly occurs kills your Familiar. You can't use hexes because you're in combat and your Familiar got killed. Your Familiar is now specifically supposed to be within 15 feet of your enemies. Or in the case of the Fervor Patron, the Divine Patron, 15 feet of your allies. But still, it's in combat. So it's even harder to keep your hexes because your Familiar can die more easily. This is stupid. It just doesn't exist to me. Deleted. Witch Feats. Okay, first of all, the one that sucks. No more Wortwitch. Why? Okay, fine. You can get a Leshy Familiar anyway if you really want to. Because you can just take the plant Familiar ability. But it gave a unique ability to see through foliage. It wasn't transferred to the Druid's Feats. It just doesn't exist anymore. Why? That was fun, weird, unique flavor. And so useful in a standard adventure, at least in my adventures. Maybe it wasn't popular. I don't know. I miss it. Cauldron, however, in my opinion, has been improved. It's also been nerfed. So, Cauldron no longer increases your yield by 2 per batch of potions and oils, but instead it lets you make a temporary potion or oil every day, and that increases with level. That's awesome! Hell yes! It should have done that before. I mean, it's way more important to get a temporary usage out of a feat or a skill, spell, whatever, than be able to do something with it in downtime, because people don't usually get downtime. That's why in my games, we don't really do downtime crafting, you just craft things. Fine, it's not in balance with the system. I don't care. The system is built in a stupid way to make crafting suck for adventurers. Speaking of which, crafting has been altered so that it now can take as little as 1 day instead of 4. Perfect. Great. Thank you for changing that. On to the rest of the witch. Witch's Armaments. I'm going to spend a few minutes on this one. What it says is, it's a first level feat. Your patron's power changes your body to ensure you are never defenseless. You gain one of the following unarmed attacks: Eldritch Nails, Iron Teeth, or Living Hair. First of all, I love that they added Iron Teeth. Yes, that is a haggy, witchy feel that needed to be there. Well done. Eldritch Nails. They don't do just 1d4 damage anymore, but they are still agile. They do 1d6, but you can never channel hexes through them. Okay, that's sort of the province of the Megas anyway, and the channel ability for the hexes never really worked very well. It had to be 2 actions, and it had to be a hex only. There just weren't that many you could do, and they were only at higher levels. I'm going to skip to Living Hair. I'll go back to Iron Teeth. Living Hair. You can instantly grow or shrink your hair, eyebrows, beard, or mustache up to several feet and manipulate your hair for use as a weapon, just like before. You get an unarmed hair attack that does 1d4 bludgeoning damage. It's in the brawling group, agile, all the same usual stuff. Disarm, finesse, trip, unarmed. But it never changes. As in, you never get fine manipulation, and you never get the upscaled versions of the witch's living hair. There are no additional feats for it anymore. So it's sort of like you got the flavor, but you can't like obsess on the hair feats, which I guess is good in the long run because you'll spend feats on different stuff and it'll be more interesting, but you can no longer really hyper focus on that. Iron Teeth. Oh, wait, Living Hair. Living Hair also, at higher levels when you take the feat, it used to allow you to channel hexes through your hair. You cannot do that with a Living Hair either. The witches no longer have any ability to channel hexes through their attacks. Just casting the hexes. Which sucks, but you know, it never did it well, so I always had to either just abandon that or mix in Megas anyway, so that's just going to be the case still. Iron Teeth. With a click of your jaw, your teeth transform into long metallic points. Freaking love it! Just a mouthful of shards of teeth. It does 1d8 piercing damage. It's in the brawling group. It doesn't say it's cold iron. I wish it did, because the changeling still has the claws that are cold iron, because they're haggy. It's useful, it's fun, it's flavorful. It's not as cool as I want it. But now it's just 1 feat for either nails, teeth, or hair. You get an attack. It's still the same flavor, and it's useful, and it's versatile. Great. You'd have to take it multiple times to get all those abilities. Ceremonial Knife. Ceremonial Knife! I love this feat, it's great. So I'm going to read the whole feat to you. 6th level feat. You have prepared a special knife to direct energies when spellcasting. During your daily preparations, you and your familiar can perform a short ritual over a weapon in the knife group, typically a dagger. This causes the knife to function as a magic wand, containing any one first-rank spell your familiar knows. You, and only you, can activate the knife to cast the spell within it, as normal for a wand, GM Core 282. You can attempt to overcharge the knife, and this can break or destroy the knife as normal. At 8th level, and every 2 levels thereafter, the maximum rank of spell your ceremonial knife can hold increases by 1. This is awesome. Because every morning you can just channel magic into your dagger. It's a wand for that day. You use it once with no problem. You use it again, overcharging it. If it gets destroyed, who cares? It's just a dagger. You pull out another dagger the next morning, you do the same thing again. You get first level wands for free, which is like 60 gold per. And higher levels, you get other wands for free. Granted, it has to be a spell that you know already, but it's still extra 2 castings every day. It's better than a regular wand. You are a great wand user, because you make your own friggin' wands, and they don't cost you anything. Okay, like 4 gold for a dagger? Who cares? It's probably too much. I don't know, 2 gold? Whatever. A dagger. This is a really cool, useful feat. Granted, it's not like it makes the flavor of a build, or it makes a build function, but it's useful for any witch. Couple of minor things. Why did they leave in Merc Sight? That allows you to see through non-magical fog, mist, rain, and snow, but took out Wortwitch, so you can't see through foliage. Why? If you have this in, why not have the other one too? You already are doing the theme. Just allow it to spread to plant life, which makes sense for a nature witch. Whatever. Spirit Familiars is an 8th level feat. I'm getting tongue-tied, I'm so excited. So you have to have the Divine or Occult Patron, and there's another one that is for Arcane or Primal Patrons called Stitched Familiar. They both transform your Familiar into damage, and you basically throw your Familiar at an enemy, and they spiritually damage the enemy for 6d6 damage. The Spirit Familiar, after it hits and does damage, heals an ally for half the damage dealt. An ally of yours within 30 feet. That is so cool! And that is really good economy for a feat. Deal a bunch of damage and heal. Granted, you can only do it once every 10 minutes, but you can still do it in every fight. That's cool! The Stitched Familiar doesn't heal. Instead, it binds and immobilizes the enemy. Which sort of feels like the Tatterdemalion Witch? Ragamuffin Witch? Tatterdemalion, I think. From 1st edition Pathfinder. Because it used to be able to wrap people in its cloth. I really liked that. And this sort of brings that back. I love that they did that. This is useful and fun. And it feels really cool. You throw your Familiar and it wraps them up in threads or razor wire or whatever you want. Does slashing damage. I have a bone to pick with Paizo. They'd done my witches wrong. So, major lessons. There are now only 2 lessons to choose from for a witch. Lesson of Death, which gives you Curse of Death, which basically slowly kills someone to death. Yeah, you heard that right. And it lets you cast Raise Dead. Okay. Or the Lesson of Renewal. It gives you a healing ability and another healing ability. So we have Life and Death, the only 2 lessons. Which means loot is in my way. So the witch only has Lesson of Death, Lesson of Renewal. They did away with Bargains and Lesson of the Frozen Queen. Again, unless they're brought out later in another book, fine, it might be Player Core 2, that's next July. Might as well be forever. So the witches have, like, life or death spells. I really like these other 2 instead. Lesson of Bargains, Lesson of the Frozen Queen. I did a video talking about lessons, link is in the description as well. I covered both of these, all of them actually. And the Lesson of Bargains, Over the Coals, the Hex, is so much fun bullshit. It's like the death Hex, but more fun. Because you're forcing somebody to do what you want, and if they don't do it, they die. If they do it, they might still die. I guess that's probably why they removed it, if they aren't bringing it back, because it could have started fights, because people are going to argue about what this person would or would not do, what they're willing to do. Because it's subjective, I see that it could start fights, fine, they might have removed it, but so what? Why did they just leave the options in there? Haven't we learned enough lessons from 5e? If people don't want to run with something, they won't. They want the tools, though. Leave it in. Obviously, I'm bitching about this. I hate that. This should be in there. And the Lesson of the Frozen Queen. It gave you Glacial Heart and Wall of Ice. Okay, granted, you could still take the Wall of Ice spell if you wanted to, but Glacial Heart, it slowly froze someone. That mechanic is just gone now. Why? That was so much fun! I hope they bring that back. That is all for my rants and raves about the Witch Remaster. We're ending this video here, and I'm going to do another one that's on everything else Remaster. Remember to join me on the Halloween live stream as well, because I'm going to be doing the giveaway for the Halloween-y dice. Lots of them. And these are also the Patron dice. They're really cool. It's so pretty. And like I said before, if you want to see either of those 2 witch videos I mentioned, they're going to be here and here. Also links in the description. Thank you for joining me. More to come soon. And remember, golems are people too. Night night.